Hey there, happy Facebook Friday. It's Elise Polli. I am the owner of Polli Properties at KW Vermont. And we have been doing this weekly Facebook Friday session every Friday, typically at noon, and doing a different topic each week, exploring different aspects of real estate. So here we are again. We did take off last Friday for the 4th of July. So today we're going to talk all about open houses. So this is a common question that we get from both our buyer clients and seller clients, wanting to know the ins and outs of how open houses work. So that's what we're going to be exploring today. And if you have any questions either live during this or if you tune in and watch this after the fact, definitely just reach out to us. We would love to be a resource to you as far as this topic and any other topic that you might have concerning real estate. Hey there, Jay, thanks for joining us. So what I thought we would do is that we break up the concept of open houses from the two perspectives of the buyers going to open houses, and then the sellers and holding an open house. So let's start first. If you are a buyer, how does an open house work? So typically with an open house, they're typically going to be Saturday or Sunday in the middle of the day. Let's say noon to 2, 1 to 3 p.m., 2 to 4 p.m., typically a 1 or 2 hour time block. And it is really for you to just go on your own. You don't have to schedule, you don't have to let anyone know in advance, you can just show up. A lot of your real estate apps are going to give you a list of all the open houses for each weekend. So I think Realtor.com does a really good job of that. You can probably look at Zillow, Trulia, really all of those websites are all syndicated and communicate to each other. So just use your preferred app or website to check out what open houses are happening that weekend. All right, so I think it's important to talk about the pros and cons as a buyer client going to an open house. So the pro, I would say, is being able to gauge in real time, in a live format, how much interest there is in a property. So for example, if you go to a house and there are 30 people lining up to see that house at that open house, then it's safe to say that that is a highly sought after property. It's likely to sell quicker than the average. If you go to an open house and it's crickets and there's no one there, then that could be an indicator as well that maybe there's a little bit more leverage on that house. Maybe it's not a quote unquote hot listing that you don't have to jump on immediately. So I do think that's helpful for a buyer to be able to go there, engage, and see what the activity is like in person. Another pro of going to an open house is that you can really take your time going through the property. So if you're a person who really wants to look in every nook and cranny, every cupboard, pantry, closet, you can really go at your own pace and look at the property in that fashion. Where typically, if you're going on a showing with your agent, we're blocking those in half-hour time blocks. There's going to be a little bit of leeway, but typically we're trying to keep to a schedule to make sure that we're staying on time for each consecutive showing that we might have lined up. So you might have a little bit more time. And then the other nice thing I think about an open house is that you can bring the whole family, right? If you want to bring your parents, aunts, uncles, friends, whoever it might be, you can really have the whole posse go and check out that home at the open house. So on the flip side, what are the cons being a buyer and going to the open house? So the cons would be that the listing agent who is there has already signed an agreement to represent the seller. So that person has the seller's best interest at heart. So, we talk about biased opinions, unbiased opinions. Their fiduciary responsibility is to the seller. So, you can certainly ask that listing agent questions and get live time answers, but just know that they're there to work for their clients. All right, so then the other side of the open house is from the seller perspective. So I often have sellers ask us, should I do an open house or not? And it's gonna vary depending on your home. So if you're a home that I think is going to get 20 showings the first weekend, then we might talk about it, and I might recommend doing an open house that first weekend with the intent of funneling all those people who would schedule showings into the open house. So that's a nice advantage as a seller if we think your property is going to go really quick, hot and heavy. Now, if you're a home, let's say, that's in the luxury market, I don't necessarily recommend an open house because we don't have as many buyers in that luxury price range. And what we tend to get is what we call, well, I call looky-loos. So we get people who just are curious to look at a home. They love real estate. They might be bored on a Sunday. My mom and dad, if you're watching this, you know that you are those people. So keep that in mind as a seller. Really look to your agent to see if they are recommending that you have an open house or not. I will say, in my real estate career, of the hundreds of homes that I've sold, I cannot think of one time where I had a buyer show up to the open house and write an offer that day. It's really quite rare to sell a house directly from an open house, at least in our market. Part of the reason being is that we find that most buyers tend to look at about 10 homes. So right there, looking at your odds, if they're looking at 10 homes, it's a 10% chance that they're going to write an offer on your home based on the open house. The other reason for this, I think, again, this is just my opinion, is that most of the people who go to open houses are not very motivated buyers. They tend to be people who are sticking their toes in the water, getting a feel of the market, might have another home that they need to sell first that's not yet on the market, and they're just trying to get a feel for what's out there. So we really don't see a lot of motivated buyers typically from people attending open houses. So again, I think the big story here is just to talk to your agent and see if they recommend it or not. As far as other cons of having an open house and being a seller, it is a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work to get your house ready. You want it to be picture perfect. And so it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of time to prep it. And then it might be, a couple hours on your weekend where you have to spend away from the house, and maybe you don't want to do that. Or maybe it's a really hot day and you don't want to be outside and having to entertain yourselves during COVID. You'd rather be in your comfy home relaxing. The pros of having an open house as far as being a seller, I think, are really going to be more about the marketing. Again, it's not really to find a buyer. I wouldn't go into it having those hopes. I think it would be more going into it with the hopes of that real estate agent doing a whole heck of a lot of marketing around the open house and the promotion. So maybe it's Instagram posts, maybe it's Facebook Live, maybe it's running ads in your local paper. It would be more trying to get the traffic and leverage out of the marketing portion of the open house. So those are my thoughts on it. What are your thoughts? What kind of questions do you have, if any? And again, if you want to think this over, let me know if you have questions after the fact. I'm always happy to chat and talk about the pros and cons. And before I sign off, I will share, we've had so many listings in the last few weeks, but we're down to just 2 really solid active listings that are still on the market. So we have 291 Snowdrift, which is in Williston, and that's a 5-bedroom with a full accessory apartment and Camel's Hump views, 15 plus acres. That's listed at $699. And then our other active listing is 259 Browns River Road in Essex. This is a really well-maintained 4-bedroom cape, 2-car garage, really big fenced-in backyard if you happen to have pets, and a really massive first floor master bedroom, which is really awesome, has a huge attached bathroom to it. And one of my other favorite things about that listing is that it has owned solar. So our clients have shared that typically their solar bill is around $12, $14 a month. So pretty minimal. So that is what's new with us. We have a couple new listings coming on the market next week. So be sure to stay tuned into all of our social media. And again, just shout if you have any real estate questions, and have an awesome weekend. All right, good to see you all. Bye.